Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Thanks for joining us. So there's a search for answers this morning after a gunman went on a deadly rampage on the campus of the University of Nevada, Las Vegas.
The shooting left 3 people dead and another person is in critical condition. The gunman was killed in a shootout with police officers. Police say the shooting started just before noon on the 4th floor of the university's Lee Business School, and the gunman went to several floors before he was confronted by police. During the incident, the university sent out a warning to the campus telling them this is not a test. Run, hide, fight. We spoke to English professor Roberto Lovato while he was on lockdown.
We heard the clips of semi-automatic weapons just going for what felt like about 30 seconds. It was a very, very disturbing thing to hear.
3 law enforcement sources familiar with the investigation tell NBC News that the suspect is a man in his 60s. No other details have been released about the suspect or a possible motive. We're going to speak with a student who was in class on campus when the shooting happened. We will get to that in just a moment. But first, let's get to the latest in the investigation. NBC News correspondent Jay Gray and NBC News terrorism contributor and analyst Jim Kavanaugh join us with more on that. Jay, let's start with you. What's the latest on the investigation this morning?
Yeah, Joe, it is continuing. A lot of the campus still locked down. The business school just behind the student union, which was packed yesterday just around lunchtime when all of this broke out. We know that they are searching for evidence here, but also carried out a search warrant at a residence in Henderson, Nevada, which is just 20 or 30 minutes outside of Las Vegas, a suburb. So they went through an apartment there. No indication of what's been found at this point, and still no indication from investigators about any type of motive in the case. That's something they're working toward, and we expect to hear more a bit later in the day here in Las Vegas. You talked about that urgent message sent out by the university as the attack unfolded. Run, hide, fight. We talked with students who did just that and with parents who gathered outside the school as word spread about the attack. Listen to what they had to say.
We were really nervous, so we barricaded all up and I started watching the windows with a couple other kids to just see what we could see, and we saw students running out in single file lines with their hands up.
She was crying, she was hysterical, saying she heard the gunshot, she heard the screaming. I'm relieved that she is okay.
Yeah, and look, obviously it's been less than 24 hours, Joe, Savannah. Still a lot of people rattled and stunned at what's happened on the campus here.
Jim, let's bring you in here. So as Joe just laid out, the only real detail that NBC News has confirmed in the investigation is that the suspect is a man in his 60s, but authorities have not released details about identity other than that or a motive at all. Walk us through what's happening right now in an investigation like this. What steps are authorities taking in order to try to get that information, and when might we know it?
Well, we start hearing some of that today. You know, what Jay reported on here, the swift search of the suspect's apartment in Henderson. They're going to swipe through his computers, his laptops, his iPads and iPhones and see if he left any message. You know, they quickly identified the guy. Probably, you know, the easiest way we always did it was, you know, go right for the guy's wallet. Don't hold the thing like a big crime scene for hours. Just, you know, as long as he doesn't have a bomb strapped to him, you determine he's safe. Get his wallet out and see who he is. And if he has one, and many times they do, and you go right to his address and safely search. So they'll have some answers today. I think that's important to note here, Joe and Savannah, is that the shooting began on the 4th floor of this business college. The 4th floor of the business college was where it began, according to the sheriff yesterday. So there's a reason the killer is there. They didn't start shooting at a crowd, you know, out on the quad, out on the grassy area out front, which was populated with students. He probably walked past them into the building. So why did he go to the particular place? Motive can sometimes be indicated by the target, the place, the time. So I think that's going to tell us something, that he had a specific target. You know, we look at the motives of violent crime just quickly: greed, power, hate, revenge, and escape as the giant rubrics in all violent crime. This is probably going to get down to some kind of revenge or power for this killer.
Hopefully learn more as the day progresses. Jay, students were preparing to close out the semester ahead of their winter break. They were allowed to go back to their housing last night, but classes are canceled today. They're canceled tomorrow. What are some of the resources available while they wait to hear if classes are even going to resume next week as they try to wrap up the semester?
Yeah, and Joe, counselors are being made available for those students as well as faculty and staff, anyone who feels like they need to talk following the attack yesterday. And I can tell you a lot of the students that we spoke with just after the attack said they didn't want to be anywhere near the campus, that they didn't want to go back. And so that's a sentiment that they'll have to work through. You talked about classes being canceled for the remainder of this week. What university officials are now saying is that they'll decide about next week in the next couple of days. Next week was to be finals week, where they'd take their final exams and then be off for that winter break. Still unclear at this point how they're going to move forward.
All right. Jay Gray, Jim Kavanaugh, thank you both for kicking us off this hour on this breaking story. We appreciate it.
Yes, we do. Well, Dominic Abella is a junior at the University of Nevada in Las Vegas. He was in a microbiology lab in an adjacent building yesterday when the shooting happened. Thank you very much for joining us. Good morning. We are so glad you are safe. First, just tell us, how are you doing this morning?
Well, I'm very obviously still rattled and shaken by the events that occurred, but I'm just very happy that I'm able to be safe and at home with my family.
I understand you were in the middle of class. You were giving a presentation when the shooting happened at the business school. You were not at that building. You were a few minutes away. But what was going through your mind when you heard there was an active shooter on campus?
Well, like you said, I was in the middle of my presentation. So at first, when the first alert was given, it was around like 11:50. At first, the whole classroom was in shock and didn't really know what to do. But once we figured out that it was at Beam Hall, we knew that we were quite far from the incident and that our campus police is quite quick when it comes to any incident that occurs on campus. So we had a plan in place to either leave the building if need be or to just stay in place, and we ended up staying in place. So we had we were all just very, very worried and scared. A lot of us were on the phone already with friends and peers who were at the scene and trying to figure out who was hurt or, our friends if they needed help or anything like that. So everyone was pretty scared, but just trying to stay as calm as possible.
So you mentioned you stay in place. As we understand it, you were on lockdown in your classroom for about 4 hours before given that all clear to leave. Tell us what you experienced during those 4 hours. What kinds of things were you hearing? What kind of information were you getting? How was everybody that you were kind of huddled with reacting?
Well, for the most part, everyone was staying pretty calm. We were trying our best not to panic and keep each other level-headed. But obviously in that situation, there is so many different things going on. We were getting information from friends and peers and different news sources, and we were just trying to make sense of what was going on. We had no idea about the magnitude of the shooting that took place. We were just trying to find any information we can on what had happened, and we were just so scared, and every second felt like an hour. We were just waiting for communication from campus police to let us know what was going on. And like I said, every second that ticked by was very painful, and we were just all hoping that we would be able to go home and see our families.
Dominic, do you feel safe to return to class next week?
I think that I do feel safe because the swift response from campus police and also Metro make me I do feel safe coming to campus because they did handle the situation very quickly, but it is going to take some time to heal from this. And I don't know if it's going to take a week. I think it might take more than that to get situated back on campus. But I think going back to campus next semester is definitely going to be a hard time for all of us.
Understandably so. Dominic Abella, stay safe. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. We are thinking about you and all your classmates during this time.
Thank you.
Now to Washington, where former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says he is resigning from Congress at the end of the month. He made the announcement in an op-ed piece published Wednesday in the Wall Street Journal.
McCarthy, who's been in Congress since 2007, was elected House Speaker in January after facing stiff opposition from fellow Republicans. He was ousted from the role in October, as you'll remember. In a video posted on X, McCarthy discussed his decision to step down, but did not say what he's planning to do next.
Today, I am driven by the same purpose that I felt when I arrived in Congress. But now, it is time to pursue my passion in a new arena.
More on this, let's bring in NBC News congressional correspondent Julie Sirkin. So, Julie, what more can you tell us about his decision to step down? And what does this do to Republicans' thin margin in the House, which might get even smaller after George Santos was expelled?
Yeah, exactly. Good morning, guys. Look, McCarthy didn't really give a clear reason as to why he was leaving Congress, not even finishing his current term, which he was elected to last year, leaving instead. At the end of the month, he said he's not going anywhere far. He's going to stay in the arena. He said he's going to keep serving the American people in a different capacity. But it's not all that surprising that he ended up leaving. To those of us who have covered the twists and turns, particularly of McCarthy's last year. He was elected Speaker after 15-some ballots in January. He was ousted by a handful of rebel rousers who he still hadn't seemed to get over what happened to him. And I think he's come to the point where he realized that because of the hard right flank, because of the MAGA populist wing, if you will, of the Republican Party in the House, he doesn't really have much else to do, especially when it comes to being in leadership. And of course, this is going to make the margins that much tighter. They're going to be working with about a 3-vote majority come January, and there's a lot to pass on the agenda, and every vote is going to count to Speaker Johnson.
Julie, let's talk about what else is happening on Capitol Hill. So we know 2 senators have launched a bipartisan investigation into private equity firms' involvement in health care across the U.S. Walk us through this, and how significant is it?
Yeah, this is a big deal. There are some estimates that over the last decade, private equity's involvement in buying up hospitals, nursing homes, you name it, has really saddled the industry with $1 trillion in debt overall. So now you have these 2 senators. You see letters up on your screen, Chuck Grassley and Sheldon Whitehouse. They are the top lawmakers on the Senate Budget Committee. They've sent letters to several private equity firms that are known to have purchased hospitals and nursing homes. And the real problem here is that according to the senator's investigation and what they want answered here, these equity firms have said to buy these companies, they saddle them with the debt, then they slash costs to appeal to future potential buyers. And that, of course, is causing issues when it comes to the quality of care that patients receive. Also, when it comes to rising costs, not only for patients, but also for payers like Medicare. So this is an investigation initially spearheaded by Grassley. Now he has a bipartisan partner, and they're hoping to get some answers when it comes to this.
All right, Julie Sirkin, thank you so much.
Well, this morning, Israel's military says it is now in the heart of southern Gaza's main city, Han Yunis. They're encircling the home of the top Hamas leader, who's thought to be hiding underground. Many Palestinian civilians are trying to flee the fighting, but residents and aid groups have warned there is nowhere safe to go. Meanwhile, the Israeli Security Cabinet approved a minimal increase in supplies of much-needed fuel to Gaza to prevent a humanitarian collapse. But this morning, the main UN agency for Palestinians said that the conditions required to provide aid to the Gaza Strip do not exist. NBC News foreign correspondent Raf Sanchez has the latest from Tel Aviv.
The Israeli government has agreed to allow what it's calling a minimum amount of fuel into southern Gaza for humanitarian purposes. That decision coming after a lot of pressure from both the White House and the United Nations on Israel to do more to address what is an unfolding humanitarian catastrophe all across the south of Gaza. The Secretary General of the UN is invoking what's called Article 99. This is a rarely used power of his that allows him to refer to the urgent attention of the UN Security Council, the crisis going on in Gaza right now. He says it is a threat to international security, and the UN has been using words like apocalyptic, like hellish, to describe what is going on in Gaza right now. We have a dynamic where most of the population of the Strip is concentrated in the south. These are people who fled their homes in the north. And at the same time, some of the most intensive fighting we have seen in this entire war is happening in and around the southern city of Khan Yunis. Now, the Israeli military says that is because that is where Hamas's leaders have fled to. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying overnight Israeli troops have surrounded the house of Yahya Sinwar, the Hamas leader in Gaza. He fled that house weeks ago. They believe he is in the tunnels underneath the Gaza Strip now. But it is a sign that Israel says they are able to operate in every corner of Gaza. For the Palestinian civilians, hundreds of thousands of them in and around Khan Yunis, they are facing a devastating choice. Do they flee even further south, try to get to safety down near the Egyptian border, or do they stay in their homes so they risk being encircled by Israeli forces? I spoke yesterday to a man named Mohammed. He's a Palestinian British scientist. He is in a 3-bedroom apartment along with 30 members of his family. He says they are talking hour by hour about what they should do, but they feel at this point that going south would be a dangerous leap into the unknown. They don't know if they would have shelter. They don't know if they'd have water. They don't know if they would have food. And so for now, they are deciding to stay in their homes. Here in Israel, there is mounting frustration among the families of the remaining 137 hostages who feel that the government needs to do more and needs to do it faster to bring their loved ones home. Back to you.
All right, Ralph Sanchez, thank you so much.
The Justice Department has charged 4 Russian soldiers with war crimes in connection to the Ukraine conflict. The soldiers have been charged with the inhumane treatment of an American who happened to be living in Ukraine and was kidnapped. The alleged victim has not been identified. Yesterday, Attorney General Merrick Garland detailed the allegations.
The victim in this case was tortured, threatened with sexual assault and execution, forced to perform manual labor, and beaten in the head, chest, and stomach with the soldiers' feet, their fists, and their guns. Again and again, he believed he was going to die. The Justice Department and the American people have a long memory. We will not forget the atrocities in Ukraine.
This is the first time the Justice Department has brought war crimes in connection with the war in Ukraine, and Garland says it likely won't be the last.
Well, the U.S. military is grounding all of its Osprey helicopters after 8 U.S. airmen were killed in a crash off the coast of Japan.
A preliminary investigation suggests that last week's crash might have been caused by a material failure with the aircraft. The Osprey has a troubled history with more than 60 people killed in accidents since the early 1990s. The Air Force says its entire fleet, which includes several hundred aircraft, will remain grounded until it completes the investigation into what happened. No word on how long that might take.
Time now for weather and the deadly flooding that's plaguing the Pacific Northwest after nearly a week of non-stop rain.
Meteorologist Angie Lassman joins us with the latest on that. Angie, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Most of those flood alerts, good news, have come down, but we still have the potential to see more flooding concerns through the day today as another system makes its way a little closer to the coast for folks in the Pacific Northwest. We've got the rain and snow on tap, middle of the country, record warm, but it's really out west that we're keeping a close eye on the impacts that we could see through the next couple of days. This morning, we're watching a low pressure system that's sitting just offshore. It'll eventually work its way a little closer to the coast and bring with it, no surprise, a little more rain and potentially some more snow. Now, the difference with this system versus the one that we just dealt with, the first one was more robust. It was a little stronger. It was a little warmer. So it was mainly a rain event other than those higher elevations that picked up some snow. This system a little weaker and will be a little colder. So we'll add some additional rain. We'll add some additional snow, but again, not quite as strong as the one we just dealt with over the past couple of days. Now, as we get into tomorrow, that low will continue working across the country, kind of redevelops as it gets east of the Rockies. This makes a big difference because look what happens by the time we get into Saturday. We see a line of storms that will just erupt as it continues to work its way a little farther east along that cold front. This means some heavy rain. It means a potential for some strong storms, specifically across parts of the South. Lufkin, Shreveport, Jackson, Little Rock, Tupelo, all included in the potential to see see some strong storms later into the day. For the afternoon hours and evening hours of Saturday, tornadoes are possible, some strong wind gusts, hail, all on the table for that second half of Saturday. Now, Sunday, it looks like a mess across the eastern third of the country. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some airport delays. We see some difficulty on the roads with driving. We've got a wintry mix that will be impactful, especially for parts of, the Ohio Valley, around the Great Lakes, and a whole lot of rain that we could see a little closer to the East Coast and stretching down towards the southeast. We'll see a flood risk from Florida basically to New England, and we could see some strong winds with this system, especially along the coast where we could be upwards of 50 miles per hour. Now, Monday gets a little better for the mid-Atlantic to the southeast, guys, but we'll still have some of that rain and those strong winds stretched across parts of the Northeast and New England. We could pick up some good amounts of snow depending on how quickly that system works out.
All right. Well, maybe we'll have a white Christmas somewhere.
I knew you'd find the bright side.
I'm looking for the bright side. All right.
Thanks, Angie.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.